Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening. Welcome to the Divine Mess. Welcome to episode 46. And today we are celebrating the reflection on the previous episode where we had the brilliant Brianna. Before we start, I'm Kirtideva Peruman. I'm the cosmic healer at the Heroes Mystic. And like every week, I'm joined by my co-host Tina Marie, an intuitive and self-love coach, busy mom as well, and soon full-time, right? Full-time job. Did
Full-time
I say it correct?
JOB.
Did I
Yes.
say it right?
Yeah.
And she doesn't like love the labels. So just like our guest like last week, who is a sound ceremonialist, a Reiki practitioner, a holistic self-care coach, Brianna brought like a wealth of knowledge and joy to our podcast. Briefly on her journey, for those who had not time to listen, I would highly recommend to go back to episode 45. Brianna shared her journey about how she navigated through the challenges of a chronic stress related condition where she spent most of her time in bed rather than living life, and through the modalities of sound and Reiki, and especially with her self care practices, she found her voice and discovered the art of embracing ease in the everyday chaos, which we call the divine mess. And today's the reflection of what we learned throughout the chat that we had with Brianna, which was brilliant, I feel, as all our guests, I feel. And what I realized is like her first part of the podcast where she talked about stillness, where we had to be, where she said like that was the first thing her coach told her to do. And I was like, we have been talking about this, like just to be. And that was a challenging thing for her because I remember like she described the first 60 seconds of remaining silent. And the way she described all the sounds, all the noises that you hear in your mind, I was like, yep, that's a great reminder of how our mind can be. It can be like a cheerful stadium, or it can be like the noisiest worst supporter of all time that you will have.
Yes,
Is that how you
exactly.
felt in the first part of the podcast?
Yeah, it was interesting because stillness is, not necessarily something that we get to experience. And I think I've been listening to another book where they talk about us being, we are human beings, not human doings. So the ability to connect with oneself by being still and quiet and waiting for the your inner wisdom to come forth, and instead of utilizing that human brain and going, well, we must do this and should do this and it's like, no, we just need to sit. And like Brianna said, 60 seconds, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you've got multiple plates spinning and you know 10,000 tabs open and you don't know where the music is coming from, it's a challenge to press on the crosses and just to eliminate the noise to be able to get back to yourself. Um, and I think it's a good timely reminder for everybody in observing some sort of stillness, whether it's the start of your day, whether it's the end of your day as a reflection, like we're doing now, or whether it's, the 30 minutes on your lunch break. If you just take, a couple of minutes just to observe where you are, what noises are going on around you, not from internally, but, from an external point of view. What can you smell? What can you see? I think that in itself is a form of meditation, but she was talking a lot around tuning all the external out and just, but I think for those people that find that bit confronting, the observation of what's going on around you is a good way of shutting all of your crowd of 10,000 down and just paying attention to the smallest things around you. But I loved it. For me, it was like, oh, yeah, I recognize that and I identify with that. And utilizing the voice is such a powerful thing. And we don't realize that when we don't do that, everything that gets trapped, the emotions, the things that you wanted to say, the boundaries that you didn't express, the anger, the frustration, the joy, the happiness, you keep it all in a bottle. And she was saying it's like when you put a bottle under pressure, like if you try and put a full bottle under a sink full of water, it's going to want to pop open and it's going to want to explode. So that for me is also, because I'm extremely visual, I liked that metaphor in going, oh, am I trying to compress myself for the needs of others? Is this a healthy way to articulate or not articulate myself? And the humming part that she was talking about and utilizing sound to connect with others was just amazing. We don't realize how connected we are, as we were talking about before we pressed record this morning. So how about you? How did you find that as a reminder?
I felt like about when she talked about the noises that you can hear outside of yourself, like even in your head. That was a beautiful reminder, like how to connect with your inner voice. Because she said, like, she realized that silence was not scary anymore. And I
Yeah.
feel that we do fear silence a lot because we are bombarded like constantly with music, with images, with our social media, the constant scrolling, the constant, like being that dopamine effect, I think it's called, like that constant urge, like to have that in our face or in our ears. And the moment you tell a person like just to sit still, not even to sit still, but just to sit in silence, and they go like, that's impossible, I can't do that. And then it's like you're running away from the voice that you keep hearing in your head. But I feel if you filter those voice, like you have filter everywhere now, like even when you're taking a selfie or even on your search bar, like you can have filters. I feel like in your mind as well you can do that. You filter what you want to hear, and then you will find that little voice maybe that will become louder and louder, because she said throughout her journey, and she's constantly now trusting her intuition and her voice. And that's how she found her voice, by trusting her intuition. And I feel that the more you be who you truly are and embrace that and embody that in every single moment of your life, the stronger the voice will become, the louder maybe it will become, you know, the louder and the louder until you understand the message and you say, okay, yeah, I get it. I get it now. I have to move, or I have to change something about my life. Because and that's what I like about her journey. She said, like, she started with simple step. There was nothing complicated. For example, she talked about her eating habits, like just changing her diet and just walking the dog 3 times a day. And that was brilliant, I feel, because often we feel that when we are watching those motivational or inspirational people, we feel like we have to have a schedule like them, or we have to do like them, we have to be like them. But they are being themselves, they are being the best version of themselves. And most of them now are speaking about the time it took them to be that version. But they do understand that journey that you go through, like that darkness. And there was a beautiful video last week that my dad sent me. It was about the guy, he was on a podcast, I forgot the name. And he was describing like how a tree grows. And the tree grows up and down as well. What I mean by that, is like the roots as well are growing in the dark, and the leaves and the branches are growing towards the sky. So, which means like sometimes we tend to look only on the outside, only at the leaves and the branches. We forgot about how the roots are strong down below. So, which means like sometimes people don't see that dark space that you go, that journey that you take, the noises that you had to go and filter and just tell them to shut up so that you can listen to your inner voice. And people don't realize that. And that's what I feel people are scared to do, to really listen to their true voice and to face that noises, like to listen and accept those noises and filter those out. And I feel that video was a beautiful reminder of how this person using technical terms explain about how the roots are growing down below and they keep spreading and expanding. So you can't have just light. You need that darkness as well. That's where the balance come. And I feel Brianna's journey was one example of that, where she explained that balance as well.
It's kind of that dance, really, isn't it? You take a couple of steps forward, you take a couple of steps backward. It's just the balance in all things. But it's interesting to watch her journey where she was talking about how she was following somebody else's plan because she thought that's what she was meant to do, and it wasn't until she became ill where she went, is this really the journey that I want to be on? But also for people to understand that it doesn't need to take a catastrophic life event for you to make simple changes, and like she said, change what you eat, get out and move your body, even if it's only to take the dog for a walk around the block. But whilst you're doing that, put some of that self-care practice that she talked about in her 3 pillars. Notice the environment, look for abundance, look for beautiful things, just so that you know that you're on the right path, that you're practicing taking care of yourself. And if it's only down to the basic simple things like cleansing yourself when you're in the shower, physically, mentally, emotionally, taking the dog for a walk, ensuring that you're eating good food, that's enough. That's enough of a good start. And, as we've said many times, self-care looks very different for a lot of people. But what she found is if those things weren't working for her, then she was moving to surround herself with other people or be in a different place to see if she could shift the energy. For her, it was going to the dance studio or surrounding herself with her friends to ensure that they were the type of people that were calling her on the stories and the things that she was articulating. If it was the same pattern over and over again, because we've all had those friends that come and sit down and catch up for a coffee with, and it's the same stuff over. When do you become the best version of that person's friend and interject and say, hey, you know what? I've given you 6 months, or I've given you 3 months to play about in this puddle of mud that you seem to think is so important to stay in. But after today, I'm not going to listen to it anymore. If you don't have friends that are holding you accountable to your growth, then perhaps you need to expand your social circle and have a look for some different humans, and I think her last step, which was really important, if all of those things that you're working through aren't working, then reach out for some sort of professional help. So whether it's going and speaking to your GP, whether it's going and speaking to a therapist, your chiropractor, your personal trainer, whoever it is, somebody else is needed to interject some different energy into changing up your situation or changing your mindset or giving you another perspective or a different way of thinking about things, so that you have a concept and an idea that maybe the self-talk that you're putting yourself through is unnecessary or it's unfounded. You know, like, why can't you turn around to someone and say, tell me why you're awesome? Because their subconscious, their brain is going, I'm awesome. Am I awesome? What makes me awesome? You know, so it's a really interesting question that you can ask any of your friends. You know why they're awesome. You know why you think that they're awesome and you choose to spend time with them. But it's a good self-reflection for them to go, oh, well, I'm really good at this and I love doing this. And, oh, that's what makes me awesome. You know, and ask the question back too. Why do you think I'm awesome? You know, why do you choose? Because our time is our most precious resource, right? Why do they choose to spend time with you? They could choose to spend their time with a whole host of other people, but they choose to spend it with you. Ask the question. I think we did a self-reflection on that once, didn't we? And
Yeah.
why are you friends with me?
Yeah, we did. I think it was during the time with
with
Wendy as well,
with
right?
Wendy. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. And there was like, I watched this video by Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
and he was like, to find your why, go and ask your friend exactly like, why are you friend with me? And then they will start saying, like, yeah, because like I like spending time with you, and then you go deeper and deeper.
Yes.
And according to him, that can lead you to find your purpose, because you're being with your friend, and have deeper conversation about it, have a deeper
Yeah.
meaning, that
Yeah.
will lead you to have an idea about like your purpose or why, your why.
Mm.
Yeah. And I feel that's relate to what you just shared, like, and I found that question like, it's a brilliant, like, why are you awesome, like, and that can trigger people in different ways. Like, some people might question it, like, might say, is it like an attack, or is it like, is she being genuine? But that's
Mm.
telling you where you need to work on, and that's showing some light. Whereas the one who is like appreciative of it, they will say, oh yeah, that's a great question, and I feel like they can give you the answer, but it come from the heart. It's not like, wait a second, I'm going to think about it and give you a list of it. And I feel that's what Simon as well is saying. It's not about the list, it's about going beyond the list and going deeper, and between those lines, reading between those lines. And that's what I feel
Yeah.
with true friends. That's what you will find.
Yeah. They hold you
Like,
accountable. They
mm,
hold you up and just go, that's absolute rubbish. And I'm not going to stand here and listen to it. And if you want to keep going, we might be stopping the conversation right about here. And that sometimes is enough of a shock for a person to go, oh, they've not spoken to me like that before, or that's never happened before. It's enough for you to start examining the words. And that was something else Brianna spoke about, was the power of the words that are coming out of your mouth, like in terms of the language is shame language. And that for me was just like on the top of my head. And she said, well, it's like you're pooping all over yourself. Why would you do something that makes you feel less of who you are by, I should go and do this, I should go and do that. Just because you think you should, does it mean you actually need to do that? Do you need to have that conversation with that person? Or do you feel obligated to have that conversation with that person? So our languaging, which is something that Wendy has taught us quite insistently over the time that we've spent with her is our choice of words as to what we articulate to others and how we articulate to ourselves is extremely important. Yet I think we place very little importance on, like the self-talk of like going, oh, Christ, Tina, that was stupid. What the hell did you do that for? And you're going, oh, thank you for showing me that I can do that better. I think there's a different way of articulate, your self-articulation as well as articulating to others. You can get your point across without completely losing it, but there are times where, from a parental perspective, you have to kind of get down and dirty and just go, no, we are not doing that. Because if they don't understand and recognize what's going on, then it becomes a way in which they can run roughshod, utilize your emotions and your feelings to get what they want, rather than upholding your boundaries and the things that you've requested for. It's a very different space and dynamic to play in once you understand the power of your own words and the power of your own boundaries. So I really loved the episode with Brianna. I found it soothing, but at the same time, just that nice swift kick in the in the behind.
Yeah, I feel like even one point she mentioned was like when we take expectation of others to be our own, and
Yes.
we take that on board constantly. And I feel that these are the noises that you can hear, and it can go back way in childhood when you heard someone telling you one thing, like even like like I remember like uh, one of my friends was saying like he never wanted to start a business because of what his dad told him about going to work a 9 to 5, and that was safe for him. And that voice still now is preventing him from starting a business, even he has so many business ideas. And sometimes it's like those noises that play in your back of your mind that are like on those constant loop that you keep hearing and hearing, and then you start to believe that they are your own, but these are like limitation from others. And just going back on noises, there was one client like recently, i I challenged her in a way she didn't like, and she was saying like the universe is being mean to her, like it's like when you challenge people as well, because the challenge was to sit, to be still, and to listen to her true voice. And she said like she was hearing too many noises, and I was like, yeah, let's go through one noise at a time, like. And she said she didn't want to do it, and she was not willing to do it. And I said I respect that, but I'm going to challenge you on that. And I say we are going to try it one more time and see. And she didn't like it at all. And then when she was in a better space, I would say, and I told her, honestly, like that's, like it feels like that was a tantrum from your ego saying, I don't want to do that. And sometimes even like people talk about, like in the fitness world, we often talk about that. Like now in our hemisphere, southern, we're moving into winter. So which means like for me, it's already dropping. Like in the morning, it's going to under 10 degrees now. Like it's 9 degrees this morning. So the chances of seeing people in the gym at that time at 5 or 5:30, the regular you will see them because it has become like an addiction, because they choose to listen to their inner voice, because they don't say I should go to the gym at 5:30. It's like I get to go to the gym at 5:30, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, wherever you are in the part of the world where where like in Mauritius it will be like really hot times, and people would choose and say like we can't go out because it's too hot, you know. And any part of the world you can find a list of excuses on not doing it, of listening to those noises. And that's what Brianna's episode made me reflect on, how as human we tend to listen to the noises on the external so much. And I realized like those people, right, you have been with you for your whole life. They don't know you, they don't have a clue on you, on who truly you are, and yet you value their opinion, you value their perspective, you value their views more than yourself. And every time when you're not listening to your inner voice, that's what you're reinforcing each time, saying that, yep, the other person is right. Like they can decide what I'm going to do with my life. That's how it's telling, you're telling yourself.
You know, when did we hand over control to somebody else? When did we utilize someone else's voice as our own? Or when did we think that someone else's point of view or thought process was more important than ours? You know, and your voice gets lost. And it was interesting where she was saying that, you know, a lot of her clients are obviously parents, have children, are in relationships. And she said at present, it's not something that she can identify with, but she can identify with the not utilizing their voice, not holding true to who they are, and helping them with the simple habit stacking to put themselves back in the number one spot and honoring themselves first, and then being able to be of service to others. And I think that's for so many people that you and I both meet, they say they put themselves first. When you really get down into the nitty gritty of it all, they're way at the back of the pack. They haven't even begun to see the finish line. They're not even close to being the first person that they honour when they wake up in the morning, or when they're driving in traffic, or when they're at work, or when they're coming home. You know, they're waking up and going, you know, the dogs are insisting that they need to be fed, and the kids want breakfast, or the partner wants a cup of tea, or do you know what I mean? Like, it's, unless you give yourself that moment of stillness, like she talks about so readily, and going, oh, what do I need this morning? Okay, I need to jump in a shower, give myself some time to wake up. Then I've got space and capacity to feed the animals in my life, whether they be human or four-legged or swimming in a fishbowl. Then there's a balance, right? It's about finding the balance between honouring your needs and being of service to others. It's that constant flow between the two, but finding the balance that suits you, that works well for you. And like she said, she found that when she wasn't honouring herself, she was radically out of balance. It's when she got sick and when she was stuck in her bed. And how many of us wake up in the morning and we feel out of sorts? We've got a headache, our bodies aren't functioning the way we want them to. Is that because you're not exercising, or is that because you haven't honoured what you need first? You know, is that because you're listening to the thoughts of others, or because you haven't listened to your own thoughts first? It's a delicate balance. It doesn't all come at once, right? You and I both know that, like the growing of the tree, we need to have internal growth as well as external growth, and they don't necessarily happen at the same time. Sometimes people think that you are stagnant, that you're or you feel stagnant, stuck. You're in the one place and it's like, where am I going? But the internal growth is happening, even if you can't see it or don't feel it. And it's not until things externally start to happen, you go, oh, okay, I was obviously ready. I've done some work. It's time to start to see the growth. But, you know, episode 45 for me, highly recommended and highly worth listening to. And Brianna's also got some amazing online courses available for people to start to learn about sound and how sound can impact and influence their life. And she's an amazing practitioner. She's very good at what she does, and she loves it. So I think they're the best practitioners to seek out, is when you find somebody that absolutely loves what they do, and because it's infectious, you know, and then hopefully you get to find what you love to do as well through the learning.
I feel it relates to the three P's of her self-care, you know, like the three pillars. Like, first is like, what are your individual practices that resonate with you? It doesn't need to be like Reiki or meditation. It could be like just walking the dog, for example, and that help you to ground yourself and to be in the moment.
Yeah.
And secondly is like all about the people, like your social life, like with whom are you surrounding. And if that doesn't even work, like go to the professional, like she mentioned. And I feel that's where we come in as coaches as well, to have to give you that 360 view that she talks about. And that's why it's important for you to, for everyone to have a coach or to have a guide or a mentor, whether it's online, whether you have a private coach, or what works for you at this point in time. That's where your inner voice will tell you where to go, will guide you maybe to a book, maybe to this podcast, maybe to this episode. If you're listening to a podcast like for the first time ever and you just jump in on this episode,
Yeah.
and maybe that's where your inner voice is starting your healing journey, but you
Yeah.
got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
start with simple step, like just like Brianna mentioned. It's not complicated. It's not like you have to stay like in monk mode, you know, like for 8 hours in a cave, for example. Like that's what people
Yeah.
think of when they hear monk, the word
Sometimes it's
monk.
just seeking out other people who are seeking similar things to you, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to find a women's circle or to find a men's shed or to find something where you can go and have different types of conversations, and you can meet new people and expand yourself, you know, or even if you're not good at doing that, ask a friend to go with you, so that then you've got someone to share the experience with, you've got someone to download with afterwards. But go and try, go and, sound healing's amazing. Like, if you get the experience of Reiki, it's, you know, it's not going to be for everybody, but they're probably two of the best modalities I've found, for assisting in moving yourself when you're feeling stuck or you're feeling blocked or you're not knowing which direction to go. Try it out, or like she recommended, find a track on YouTube, play it, see what comes up. You know, have no expectation, but to play it, see what comes up, and then maybe write a few notes in your journal, and then do it again the next day, see what comes up. Just little moments here and there, and then eventually you'll get to understand yourself on a deeper level. But, you know, I loved it. I love the people that come on our podcast, because they're always a very timely reminder for each of us to dig a little bit deeper and to practice a little bit more, and to not get caught up in our humanness. I think that's my takeaway from it.
And it's just being human, like human being, like you said. And that's a reminder for everyone who is listening. And like, we all welcome like your feedback. And if you feel that you're a potential guest as well, that you want to come on board and share your wisdom and how you're serving the world, in what ways you're serving, any way that you feel that you can come on board, please reach out to us. We are really open to that, because that's a direction we are heading. Obviously, like, to have more people on board and to promote like how you're serving the world, so that people get to know you more, and broadening and expanding, just like the universe is every single day, every single moment. I think it's a good time.
Yeah, I think so. But also to say a big thank you to all of our listeners. 1,000 downloads. We are extremely grateful, considering when we started, we weren't sure whether anybody was going to tune in or not. So 1,000 downloads is something to truly celebrate, and we're extremely grateful, and we look forward to more zeros being added to the end of that as more people come on board. But if you know of somebody who has had an amazing experience, or they're doing awesome things in the world, please send them our way, or at least get them to listen to the podcast and see if they feel that they are a good fit for us as well. But until next week, we love you and thank you for joining us. And we look forward to having you on the 47th episode, as we are edging closer to 50 episodes. So we're extremely grateful. Have a great week. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you next week.
Well, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. And congrats to everyone who participated in the 1,000 downloads. So we're really excited about that. And now we're aiming higher. So thank you so much. Take good care.
Ciao.